Hello, everyone. Hello. How's everyone doing? Wednesday night, let's go! Wednesday night live stream. Hello, Ted, Pablito, Margot. How's it going? How's it going, everyone? It is so nice to see you. What a day. It's a snowy day here in Wisconsin, believe it or not. The very first, it's not gonna stick, but we're getting snow. We're getting snow up here. It's officially happening. Winter is unavoidable. Unavoidable. Oh. How's everyone doing? I gotta say, today gonna be a chill live stream. Pablito, I got you. I do what I can. I can pronounce names with the best of them. Oh man, what a day. Filmed some videos today. Tomorrow doing some editing. And tonight, what we're doing right now is we're gonna start by looking at an interesting Reddit post that I pulled up right before the stream started. I got a long history with Reddit. I don't do Reddit much more anymore. I used to be on Reddit all the time, but it's such a time sink. And honestly, Reddit's bad for you. I'm gonna tell you right now, Reddit's bad for you. But every now and then I go over into the writing subreddit, and I like to see what kind of discussion's going on. Now, if anyone here has been to the writing subreddit, Lantern Valley, I see you in the chat. I got you. Hello. The writing subreddit, I have mixed feelings about. When I was just really trying to decide, do I know anything about writing? And when I was really trying to figure out the basics of writing. So we got Phantom. Hello, Phantom. Temp YT. Hello. When I was really starting to figure out what my life was going to be in association with writing. Was I going to make this a hobby? Was I going to try to make this a job? Is this art? Is this a career? Is this a side hustle? Trying to figure out all those things. I would go over to the writing subreddit and I would just see the same exact questions every single time. And a lot of them are very basic questions. And so I really wanted there to be a better place to discuss story. And it was the letdown that I felt with the writing subreddit is what made me want to do the Discord community. And look where we are today. I love it. Tario, hello. Carcelo, hello. Temp YT says, I have a question. I heard some advice that my first book shouldn't be a space opera or a big story. Is that true? Your first story should be the one that you think you have the highest likelihood to finish. And the decisions that you make help get to that point of figuring out, am I really going to finish this story, or am I going to write it 10,000 words and then get distracted with something else, or start playing Elden Ring, or then I'm going to pick up this other book and want to write this other story. Typically, and this is something that I do suggest, and people go different ways on it, I would say your first book that you write, the first story that you really want to, tell and finish, just set yourself a lower word count. And if you go over it, great. But if you set a lower word count, you don't feel like a failure. If you write 40,000 words and tell a story, but oh darn, you were going to write 100,000 word space opera that was 6 parts of a series. There is something to be said for the idea of set yourself up with a project that you truly can succeed in. Your first project maybe shouldn't be a 10-book series. Your first project, if you've never finished anything else before, maybe shouldn't be an insanely epic fantasy story with multiple POVs and non-linear storytelling in different timelines. You know what I mean? Your first story maybe should be crafted with a little more intentionality to say, maybe there are these other stories that I want to tell, but right now, the story I need to tell to learn about the writing craft and to learn about the act of sending something off to be published or self-published, maybe that should be a little smaller. Like Margo says, big stories are harder to write and finish, of course. If you're passionate about it, go for it, but try not to be too ambitious. Write the story that you feel like you're going to be able to complete. That does mean if you are super passionate about something, do it. If you're not very passionate about it, but you think you're supposed to start with a 3-book trilogy in epic fantasy, and you're doing that because that just seems like that's the moneymaker, maybe don't do that one. And Juliet, hello. Welcome to the live stream. All right, we're switching over here to this Reddit post. I shared a link with this on the Discord if you want to go check it out for yourself. But it was this post I went over to and I checked out, and it says lessons learned from 6 books and 10 years of writing. And let me tell you right now, this person has more to their writing history than I do. All right. So they've probably learned lessons I've still yet to learn. But I wanted to talk about their lessons that they learned from writing these books. For some reason, I thought it was 6 lessons. But there were some gems here, some interesting things. And then there were some things that I read very quickly as I was looking over this. And I was like, you know what? I don't know if I agree with that one. But I would love to talk with you all about it and get your thoughts as well. So let's talk about this first one. Finding your voice isn't what you think it is. A lesson learned from writing a bunch of books. Finding your voice isn't what you think it is. Let me ask you. What do you think your voice is as an author? What do you think your voice is as an author? Does this mean the kind of books you write? Like I wrote a cozy fantasy book for my first self-published thing, right? Does that mean I should be a self-published, exclusive, cozy fantasy author? Or is finding your voice something different? What do you think finding your voice is? So what this person goes on to say, says they wrote everything from dark fantasy, they did comedy, they didn't really find their unique voice until a couple books in and trying a couple different things. Margo says there are components of both writing style and having something to say. In journalism, we put a lot of emphasis on the latter, having something to say. Atario says, I thought it was all about the writing itself, sentences and all. So this is why I wanted to bring this up, because I think we get voice and tone as 2 literary concepts that come up a lot. But I think this is a little bit different than your voice as an author, because there is the literary term voice, right? The literary term of voice is like your word choice, your descriptors, what makes your writing sound like Atariel or Margo or Carson or Anne Juliet, right? That specific voice that's in your head that comes out through your story. But I think this is meant to be a little different. Anne Juliet says your voice as a writer is precise, deliberate, and immersive. You value clarity and sensory immediacy in your prose, often opting for naturalistic language and descriptions that resonate with the reader. I'm assuming that's what that last part is. I think in this case, I think that the OP original poster, right, is talking about your voice as a writer are the stories that you decide to tell. And you may think that you're going to sit down and write this big dark fantasy. The world's about to end. We have our heroes crawling through the dirt to save the world. And you write that story and you tell that story. And maybe it was really hard to tell that story. And then the next story you tell, maybe you want it to be a crime thriller set in Alaska. And you write that story. Maybe you feel really satisfied with it. Maybe you don't. And then you sit down and you write a cozy fantasy book. I think when we talk about our voice in the literature terms, right, the terms of our actual writing, that's different than what this author's talking about. I think what they're talking about is that when you choose to be a writer and you choose to tell, especially your very first story, that is a big endeavor. And even to dip your toes in different kinds of storytelling, writing in first person versus third person versus writing in second person, writing fantasy versus science fiction versus a love story. in order to sort of test the waters and all of these things, it takes a lot. It takes a long time because you have to tell a whole story in that sort of medium, that genre, those decisions, to really know whether or not that's your style. I think finding your voice, like what they're talking about here, is one of those things where there are certain stories that you will naturally want to tell. And you know what? I bet that connects in a way with how you naturally write your words. And I think the author even says that down here. Follow your personality and tendencies in your daily life. They'll lead you to write best. I don't know about that. I guess maybe if you have a really naturally funny prose, maybe don't write a grim, dark drama, is maybe what that's saying. But I think your identity as an author isn't going to be fully established and grounded for a while. Hey, Just Guy. I think that there is this idea that like I'm an author and I'm meant to tell fantasy stories. But you may find out that fantasy isn't quite the long-term plan that you want. Because when you tell a mystery story and then you're like, oh my God, this is awesome. I think finding your voice, finding the kind of story that you want to tell is going to evolve over time as you do. And that can be kind of an exhausting process. Kind of an exhausting process. Do you think an author needs to decide on one genre to write in? Because most of them do. And we can kind of group science fiction and fantasy together. Because a lot of genres do. They say is sci-fi and fantasy. Do you think an author needs to choose a genre to write in? Kind of stick to that genre. Let me know what you think. Number 2, marketing and selling really is that hard. I can fully agree with this one, and I don't even have the 6 books worth of publishing to I don't even have the 6 books in the backlog to say that, like, you know, I've got 6 books worth of marketing to back this up. Even just having 1 book worth of marketing, I can tell you that writing business, completely different side, completely different mindset, completely different set of skills, requires some analytical, business forward thinking, a lot harder. Atara says, I don't think that authors should be restricted, but it makes sense in a marketing sense to stick with 1 or 2 genres. Phantom says, I don't really think you need to stick to a single genre. And Pablito says, I will never choose one genre. So here's the thing. Let's say, hello, Justin. Let's say that, hold on. Where's my book? Hold on. Let's say that you read, hold on, let me pull it over here. Let's say that you read Starlight Farm's Kennel for Talking Dogs, and you were like, man, you know, this was a good book. I would love to read more of this kind of story from Carson. And then you look at my backlog and you see a cozy fantasy book. You see a crime thriller. You see an epic fantasy. You see an urban fantasy. You see a science fiction story. What about reading this cozy fantasy book? This one right here, Starlight Farm's Kennel for Talking Dogs. Link in the description. What about reading that one book, that cozy fantasy book, would make you want to pick up that sci-fi book that I wrote? Maybe you like the way that I depicted characters. Maybe you like the way that I wrote certain prose. But most of the advice you're going to get here is going to be professionally and financially. It makes the most sense to write one genre and then try to gather as many fans of that genre as fans of you, your authorship, your book. And then every time you put a new one out, you have a base of fans who are like, yes, I want another urban fantasy from Carson. Marcus says, unfortunately, the entire planet can't be compelled to make millions of books out there, all million sellers. If I publish, I'll make sure I can afford the marketing without depending on profit. You have to, especially the first book, especially probably the first couple books that you put out, you have to be prepared to spend money. For sure, for sure. Terrio says, imagine you would not only make great videos about writing, but also review makeup. What makes you think I'm not wearing makeup? I would be a great makeup reviewer. You can't even tell. Can't even tell. I'm so good at picking foundation that matches my skin tone. It's invisible. Hold on. What's the, I gotta think of a famous makeup brand's motto. It's invisible. It's CoverGirl? Is that one? All right. I think you're allowed to have somewhere between 3 and 7 pen names without requesting more on KDP. So if you want people to know you're writing the shiftier eroticas as well, make up a name. Joanne Rowling tied another genre, and I felt like she needed a pen name for it. Pen names are one thing. Pen names are one thing. You could definitely say, I'm going to write books in different genres. But then you also lose the ability to say, I crushed writing this urban fantasy book. And now I'm putting out this other genre book that has all of my same personality and voice and character work and everything. But these other people, unless they truly seek out more books by this pen name, will never know about it. That's the downside to the pen names. That's why most of the time you hear pen names, you hear like Stephen King being like, oh, I'm so successful. I just want to know if I write other books under a different name, that people will still love me. And then you have Michael Crichton, who's like, Michael Crichton went the other way. He wrote some books in college for extra money under a pen name, knowing that he wanted to write books under his actual name following college. I wish I had that confidence. I wish I had that confidence. All right, point number 3. There is one really big decision to make. What are you writing for? I don't know if this one is as important. I don't think this is a point important. That's equally as important as things like find your voice. The next one is you're not as good as you think you are. I think that's probably a good point we're going to talk about. But what are you writing for? I mean, if you go into writing and you're like, I need to make a quick buck as a brand new author, I'm going to write this book, make a couple grand or couple $100,000 and then dip out, get rich fast. Yeah. But like, I think most of the people who put in the work to write a story over multiple months that requires you writing it and editing it and fixing it and making it as good as you possibly can aren't then saying, if this book sells less than $1,000, I'm never going to do it again. I think, and you know what? I also need to preface this by saying, if you are in this live stream, that's probably the case. There's definitely people out there who have these dreams like, I'm going to write a book. It's going to be a bestseller. It's going to be, I'm going to get into it for the money. Don't do that. But if you're in this live stream, you probably just like writing. So, you know what I mean? You probably just like writing. This guy says, because I imagine could be funny to have my own book out there. Not only could it be funny, it could be real. Just Guy. Your own section at the bookstore. Books by Just Guy. Justin says, if you're writing sci-fi or fantasy, which odds are most of you are, do it under the same name. Those are overlapping genres. Also be mindful that of overlapping genres are a positive, not a negative. Very good point. Yeah. Specifically science fiction and fantasy, you can kind of all, usually if you're fans of one, you're at least open to reading the other. That's not always the case going from like a crime thriller to a romance. You know what I mean? Anne says, my goal is to write as good as top writers, which happens beyond, that is something I can't control. Phantom says, I wrote something that my friend told me I should write novels, and I just said, bet. Target says, I want my name on something. Enjoy my book or hate it. You had to see, but you had to see my name on it. I think a lot of what's motivated me personally, and this was also in my own sort of creative endeavors with music when I was making music. For me, the idea that I'm creating things that have the potential to outlive me, that like my grandkids could be like, wow, we didn't know our grandfather wrote a book, and then they could read that and get that little piece of me, even though I'm long gone. I hope not, but even if I am long gone, that was always a big thing that motivated me personally. That was like one of those existential fears that I had growing up, was like, what if everything I'm doing is pointless and everyone forgets everything I've ever done? And then I was like, yo, wouldn't it be sick if someone could like play a song I like wrote and recorded like one day? And I was like, that's dope, I love that. And then now, of course, books. Landon Val says, I just write because I wanted things I liked. What better way to enjoy those things than to make those things? Amen. Preach it. That's a good one. Otario says, I wrote my first short story when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and my class really enjoyed it. From then on, I knew writing was my calling. I think there may be a lot of us in this chat who had some moments. I remember this happening to me too. Some moment where I was in class, we had to do like some creative writing thing. And then writing a story and like having your story be like singled out, being like, hey, this is good. And then as a kid being like, oh, like ascending, being like, this is an amazing feeling. I'm going to be chasing this high for the rest of my life. Anyone else? Speaking of, you're not as good as you think you are. Most writers are just playing leagues away from the skill level required to be published, much less popular. I think that's fair. And I also think it is unfair if you, in the chat here, are comparing your writing to those published books that you buy at the bookstore. That is not a one-man show. That's like saying, how come when I play live music on my acoustic guitar through my crappy sound system, my used PA that I bought from a garage sale in 2004, that I have hot wired with a paperclip, how come when I play my acoustic guitar and sing through there, it doesn't sound as good as Ed Sheeran? Well, duh, the answer is when you're listening to recordings of Ed Sheeran, you're listening to a talented person with an entire team of people there to mix and master and produce and help him songwrite to make him the best that he could possibly be. And you know what? If you had a team of people around you helping you become the best you could possibly be, your writing would of course be better. And that's kind of what we're doing in the Discord. Share your stories in the Discord. Have people check that out. You guys want to hear a fun story about Ed Sheeran? And me? What? One time I had to travel for work. I had to travel for work down to Nicaragua. And first off, very tumultuous time in Nicaragua when I did that. And something I found out very quickly is if you look like me, and I look just like this, right? I had the glasses, I still had the beard, I still had the hair. You're walking down the street in Nicaragua looking like this, people will ask if you're Ed Sheeran. 100%. 100%. 6 times I got stopped in the street and all I hear is Ed Sheeran? 6 times. More than that, I got called Chele by random people in the street, especially if I'm walking by someone who was selling like fruit or some sort of wares or food along the side of the street, and I didn't stop there and pay for something, I'd get Chele. Which my people I was working with in Nicaragua were quick to let me know being called Chele is leche backwards, which leche is milk. So I was just like milky Ed Sheeran walking around down there. So, shout out Ed Sheeran and Milk. You're not as good as you think you are. And I definitely think that this is a point that we in this live stream emphasize with each other. How many times have I told you that your first draft is going to suck? How many times have I told you that those published books that you read that you shouldn't compare yourself to are the works of entire teams of people? Because this, you know, what this person's saying, you're not as good as you think you are, I look at it the other way. Don't sell yourself short. Don't sell yourself short. Your first draft isn't going to be as good as your final draft. Your final draft that you self-publish by yourself isn't going to be as good as a published draft, you know, with a whole team of people, with the top editors in the world, using the top softwares in the world, using the top book art cover designers in the world. Just keep that in mind. And that's it. And that's it. All right, well, this post was, I was hoping for a little bit more. Life advice, don't milk Ed Sheeran. Atario, thank you for making me save that. Thank you for making me say that out loud. I request no one clip that. Thank you. Lander Valley says, I like my stories better than most published team stuff, so it's encouraging. If you like your stories, you're good. And if you like your stories, you're not going to be the only one. I say this in one of my videos coming up. Maybe it's this Friday one, but I say that you should, of course, like, you know, write the things that you want to write the tropes. It was the tropes and the cliches video. Write the things that you would want to read because you're not unique. Sorry, you're not unique. Yes, I know it's shocking. You're not the only person who likes sci-fi space pirate stories. You're not the only person who wants a Firefly-esque space opera. There's thousands of people out there who want that. Write that book. Right there. Oh, it's on the soundboard already. Atario, you sabotaged me. You know, I've been thinking about, I used to do podcasts back in college. I worked as this, like, I was the editor-in-chief of this student lifestyle magazine at the school I was at. And we had no budget, but we wanted to make lots of fun college-focused content and stuff that we were interested in. So we did some podcasts because they were free to make, you know? And it was a lot of fun. And I was on a podcast recently for an Instagram account called The Plottery, who I've been following for a long time, and they have the Plotcast. And it was fun. And I don't really just want to rehash stuff out of my videos or not choose to not make a video because I could make it a podcast. But I thought it would be interesting to just like once a week react to some stuff on like the writing subreddit or other writing communities as just like launching points for like what to talk about. So we'll see if I ever end up doing that. It'd be cool. I would like to collaborate with more writing content creators. It's hard. It's hard to get in touch with all the right people. More importantly, it's hard to get them to respond. There we go. I'm a different beast. I respond to emails. Take that, YouTube. Got him. I did some writing today before the stream. Did anyone else do some writing today before the live stream? I was able to get down 1,100 words, which brings my total to 24,360. 24,360. Like answering phone calls these days. Who does that? Justin says, I literally know 8 people who are working on books like that right now. Space Cowboys on Mars. Yeah. Alex. Hello, Alex. I don't know if I've seen you around the chat before. Have you heard of Jed Hearn on YouTube? Yeah, you know, one of the cool things that I am aware of Jed Hearn. One of the interesting things is that when you look at your dashboard as a content creator, one of the things there is it shows you of your audience, what other channels do most of your audience have in common that also follow your channel. And so I can see like local script man, local script guy, you know who I'm talking about. Jed Hearn, writer Brandon McNulty, Abby Emmons. I'm trying to think of who else is there. Maybe StoryGrid. I can't think of any other ones specifically off the top of my head, but I get to see that kind of stuff, and that's pretty interesting. I am currently, I'll let you in on a little secret that stays in here. Everyone, hold on, come here. Keep it quiet. Turning off the music. You gotta be quiet though. Okay, hey, come here. I'm working on something behind the scenes. Can you hear me? Welcome to my new ASMR channel. I'm working on something behind the scenes. I'm putting together a Discord to try to get a bunch of different writing content creators into that Discord so that we can all have one single place to start to reach out and connect to each other so that we can do some collaboration. Okay? So here's what I'm saying. If you, in the next like 4 months, start to see a lot more of your favorite writing YouTubers collaborate in videos, you know who to thank. So I got some people in my corner already. Got some people in the Discord already. But I'm gonna focus on it after Novella November. Keep an eye out. Alright, now let's pretend this never happened. You don't know anything. I didn't tell you anything. We're gonna go back to how the live stream normally. Does that sound good? Okay. Okay, where were we? Oh, I gotta say, you know, there is one thing I'm really excited to tell you, and that is that Pro Writing Aid has sponsored, not sponsored, this live stream is done in partnership with Pro Writing Aid. That's the way to say it. That's the way to say it. Also, Alex, I did not miss your message. It's a really cool feature, and yeah, I'm new around here. Just joined the Discord last week. That's what I love to hear. Let's go. Pro Writing Aid, you see me use it as I'm writing. You've seen me run some reports. We've seen some really cool things here, and I will continue to do that so that you can see it. But if you've ever been interested in trying Pro Writing Aid, now's the time to do it because they have a 50% off Black Friday sale. Let's go! And you know what? It's still the same thing. You can go and try it out. They still have a free trial you can access before you commit and make the payment if you want to use that tool. The thing is, writing is easy. You should definitely have the right tools for it. Writing is easy, but editing is really hard. And it's even more important then to have the tools that you need. Let me tell you exactly how this stuff happens, right? I can click here into my Scrivener and I can go over into Pro Writing Aid and I can click this button and we can see all of the different reports that Pro Writing Aid offers. I saw that in our comments, you guys really liked the summary report that I ran last time. So the summary report is kind of like a meta report. It shows you all the information that you would get from a bunch of different reports in one thing that you can scroll through. So if you want to get a ton of information about your story, you can do that. And one of the cool features was that you can actually go to your settings in Pro Writing Aid and say, here's an author I really want to write like. I aspire to write like. I'm influenced by. And you can choose that author if they're on the list. Most of the popular authors are. Mine's set to Brandon Sanderson. I could have chosen Dean Koontz or Stephen King or Agatha Christie or any number of different writers. And now when I run this summary report, I can get information. Let me get to one of the graphs down here. Let me get it down here. Okay, it's really hard to see. I'm sorry that it's hard to see, but I can get some information here that says, here's one specific breakdown, emotional tells, and we can see that on my document, I don't use this kind of emotional tell at all. And this is not even a full chapter, so I guess that would kind of make sense. But in fantasy, for on the average, we have this amount. And Brandon Sanderson goes even further than that, writing this amount. If I go into like sentence length down here, let's see if it has one for sentence length. In my document, I have 71% of my total sentences are under 10 words. And you know what? That's pretty close for how Brandon Sanderson and the fantasy genre typically goes. So this is like one of the kind of neat things. We'll be looking at this more through the live stream. It's pretty cool. I like it. Other things like checking out your pacing. I got some slow pacing on this chapter. There's lots of dialogue. Sentence structure. Oh no, conjunction junction. Oh, okay. But yeah, here's this is the whole idea, right? Dialogue tags, action tags, dialogue tags with adverbs. There's all kinds of stuff here. Pro Writing Aid's pretty great. You know I use it, and I wouldn't recommend something I didn't really believe in. I believe in Pro Writing Aid. That's why I got a lifetime membership in 2020. People don't say that. 2020. Okay, all that out of the way. I think there's nothing left to do but to do it, people. Am I right? Nothing left to do but to do it. How's everyone feeling? Are you feeling hydrated? Are you feeling ready to write? Do you have your snacks, your water, your coffee, your tea? Anyone drinking decaf coffee tonight? That's crazy. Your affogato, your smoothie? Alex asks, is Pro Writing Aid good for while you're writing or mostly the editing stage? It's going to be mostly the editing stage. That's where, you know, I'm using it 95% of the time. But I'll tell you, Alex, one of the things that I think is sort of like a hidden feature, and I've talked about this before on the live stream. Kiera, hello. One of the things that I got a lot out of with Pro Writing Aid was the fact that I would run some of these reports for like words that I'm overusing. And then instead of just running the report and being like, okay, now I'm going to take out all the times I said this word, that. Instead of just running that report and like clicking on some buttons and editing it, running that report opened my eyes to how I was like blind to that rule breaking in my writing. And that was a really big thing for me. Noticing that like, okay, I can use these reports to learn about my writing to improve how I naturally want to write. Like it inspired me to purposely pay attention to when I'm overusing the word that. Or another one, I used a couple of a lot in my last book. And I was like, why do I keep doing that? Now that I'm aware of it, I can make that change to my writing style. But for the most part, it's going to be in your editing process. Okay. All right, I do not have my water. So here's the deal. We are going to go for our first writing sprint. This is where we figure out who the real ones are, who sticks around and does this writing, because that's the point of this live stream. That's the point. I'm going to put 20 minutes on the clock. You know how this works. 20 minutes on the clock. Simper says, whiskey is better. All right, Hemingway. Hemingway in the chat. We got Hemingway in the chat. Hemingway called. He wants to box you. He says, I'm the man here. Watch out. Jake Paul will come next and knock your socks off. I'm putting 20 minutes on the clock. I'm turning the lo-fi music up. turning the lo-fi music up, and we're gonna do some writing. I'm gonna run out there and grab some water and come back and do some writing. So good luck, everyone. Be productive, make some progress on your story, and I will see you when the timer is up. Good luck. Good luck. And just like that, 20 minutes. 20 minutes are up. And look at that. You made progress on your story. It was that easy. It was that easy. Let's see, I'm at 24,992. That's 600 words. 600. How'd everyone do? Atario, 560 words. Let's go. Margot just hit 100,000. 6 digits. That's an air horn. That is awesome, Margot. Congratulations. And while we were doing our writing, we had Notori come in the chat and said they just started writing their novel yesterday. That's the first step. You just got to keep taking those steps. And joining this live stream, honestly, and it is easy to make progress. Just Guy says just got 834 words. That is awesome. Phantom says they did it out of order, so I can't get an exact word count, but I know I added at least 100. Let's go. Let's go. Margaret says, Notori, have fun. Yes. Carcelo says, I didn't actually get anything on my story, but I did get some brainstorming for a new character to be introduced shortly, and that is still progress. Justin roughed out a scene. Look at all this. Look at all this. This is what I'm saying. That is what I am saying. It's so good. It's so good. Alex says, 273 words in the 20 minutes, 716 since I started an hour and a half ago. Very nice, Alex. Very nice. Yeah, you know what? That's the thing with these live streams. These little 20-minute bursts. First off, they fly by like that. They fly by so fast. But second off, being able to join a live stream and just kind of hang out and chat and talk about story. And more importantly, when you hit challenges, when you hit these like speed bumps and you're like, oh God, I don't quite know how to, you know, make my character feel like this or like get to this next plot point or I can't do X, Y, or Z. This live stream is for those moments because you can just be like, hey, everyone, what the heck? How do I do this thing? How do I write? And our whole community is like, here's how I would do it. And that's the coolest part. That's the coolest part. Let's go. Make sure you're staying hydrated. I saw someone out there drinking hot chocolate. Shout out hot chocolate. Swiss, isn't it? What's the hot chocolate brand? Like the big ones, Swiss Miss? That can't be right. Is it just Swiss? That feels kind of lazy. One day, hot chocolate tier list. I'm calling it. It's Swiss Miss, right? Yeah. Yeah. Isn't hot chocolate just cocoa powder and like powdered sugar? Am I wrong in that? I'm pretty sure if you look at minus like the ingredients for like preservatives and stuff, non-caking agents, I'm pretty sure it's just cocoa powder and powdered sugar. And then you go down to like, I went over to Spain and they do a hot chocolate there that is like hot chocolate syrup, like just melted chocolate in a big vat that they pour in a cup for you. That's a different kind of hot chocolate. Swiss Miss. Wow. I can dig that. That's not a bad brand name. That's not a bad brand name. Could be better, could be worse. Oh my gosh. Oh no, he's done it. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. These are brand logos. Brand logo tier list. Let's see. Are there any trash brand logos here? The GIMP logo, pretty bad. Pretty bad. Starbucks. How we feel about Starbucks? What is this? Is this the programming language that Google does? What is this? Who is this guy? Someone help me out. Who is Chester, the cool cheetah's little cousin? Hey, shout out little cousins. Scratch, right? Is that not like the Google programming, kids programming language? All right, I can tell you right now, there are some easy S tier logos here. First off, number one S tier logo that I see in here, Firefox. Firefox, come on. Come on, you know what you're looking at. It's a fox, it's got fire on the tail, and it's encompassing the world. S tier. S tier. Alex says, reverse image search a screen clip. I'm not going to do that. I am not going to do that. Honestly, I feel like most of these tier lists are just mid. Honestly, Minecraft, not a good logo. Not a good logo. Could be better. But mostly mid. All right, I'm out of here before I end up doing this for the next 30 minutes. It's too tempting. It's too tempting. Dario says, my professor would say that the Twitter logo is the best. The amount of times I had to hear about that. That is such an academic, like, flex. I have also had design teachers that are like, look at this Twitter logo. Realize the beauty. Look at the curves, the subtleties, the proportions, the ratios. And you know what? I'm sure that kind of thought was put into it. I just don't want to hear about it. Sorry, I'm getting a little heated. I'm sorry. Tario, I had the same sort of experience. It's just a professor. It's like a genre trope of being a professor. You're just like, I'm a design professor. Let me show you this map that's really good. Let me show you, the idea of what smoothing is in in Illustrator so you can understand it. Let me tell you about SVGs versus vector graphics. Check out this Twitter logo. Wow. All right, before we go on our next writing sprint, how's everyone doing? Anyone hitting any challenges, any roadblocks, any speed bumps? My other professor had the hots for chairs. Whew. Everything was about chairs. That's called functional design. Design a pretty chair that you can also sit in. Hello, sign me up. Shout out chairs. Any other roadblocks? Shout out little cousins. Shout out chairs. Shout out you for being in the chat today. Atari says, I jumped into a different project again. Needed some fresh air. It is tempting to do that. It is definitely tempting to do that. But there is one downside to keep in mind, Atari. And I'm not just like saying this to you. Clearly, this is like just a talking point for everyone. If you find that you get to a part of your story and maybe you're getting burnt out in that story, totally okay. But if you find that you're getting to a part of the story where maybe like you don't quite know where to go next, you don't quite know what the next plot point you need to hit is, and you then decide to go work on another story, I would say for me personally doing that, 7 times out of 10, I never come back to this story to actually push through and get to that next big plot point. I feel like when I start making that decision about going to work on this other project, and again, if this is about burnout, yeah, take a break, let the brain refresh, get back in there later when you're excited for it again. But I've had other stories where like I've gotten to this point and I'm like, what should I do next? Like my planning wasn't very good. Like, what am I going to do? And then I'm like, you know what? I'll go work on this other thing, and I never return. So beware. Beware. Kira says, I'm trying to set up the big battle scene. I'm not really sure how to write the big speech to amp everyone up for battle. Here, number one thing I can say, give it a shot. And that is such a great point that you can make stronger when you're editing. Especially because you're going to better understand the outcome of the battle, which means you can go back and sort of tailor that speech to really emphasize the points that you need it to. And think of it this way. Every big Hollywood movie that has a big speech like that, that speech was probably rewritten a dozen times to get it just right. Margaret says, reading dialogue aloud can help too. Definitely read it out loud. Until you get to the point where in your head, the dialogue is kind of being processed out loud, then you don't really need to be saying it out loud. But when I did Starlight Farms, I did do a whole edit where I read aloud every line of dialogue to make sure that nothing was phrased in like a weird or unnatural way. Alex says, I haven't yet outlined my final chapters. I have some good ideas, but I'm concerned it might not land in a satisfying way. Alex, I also do not outline my all the way through my story. Sometimes I kind of, at least in the past, I've kind of discovered, like I had a loose idea for how the ending should be, but in writing things, kind of discovered what the natural ending of the story should be, and sort of been able to work my way there, if that makes sense. And I think that's a pretty normal thing. I've been working on the rules of promises and payoffs, but putting everyone in one room is going to be very tricky. Too much happening at once. That does sound tough. Good luck on that. Just guy says, like George Lucas's dialogue that traumatizes Mark Hamill to this day. I do love that. First off, shout out Mark Hamill. There's also a program you can download called Type It, Read It. Interesting. Type It, Read It. That poor man. Poor Mark Hamill. Poor dude who played Christian Haydenson. Is that his name? Haydenson? Who played Anakin, who had to read lines like, I don't like sand. It's coarse and gets everywhere. And shout out to the guy who had to play Jar Jar Binks. Hayden Christensen, that's it. The guy who had to play Jar Jar Binks and run around like, wow! Oh man, put me in the movie. Put me in the remake. Wow! All right, I think we're ready for our next sprint. Which means 20 more minutes of focus time. Get some writing done, get some words down, make some progress, do the planning if you're doing planning instead of writing. But this is the time to just kind of put the phone off to the side. If you're watching on your phone, you can kind of keep it close, I guess, whatever. But just 20 minutes of non-distraction free writing. I mean, come on. It's easy. Justin, we're going to revisit this later. 20 minutes going on the clock. Let's do it. Lo-fi up, microphone off. I'll see you on the other side. right, sprint number 2 down. We got Dana from Atlanta chiming in. Dana, let's go. That is my mother. Hello. Hello, Mom. How'd everyone do? What kind of progress did you make? Get out a full screen here. 25,558. Atlanta on top. ATL. ITP or OTP. We all ATL. Margo says, I'm not sure how many words I wrote, but I'm up to 101,000. There you go. Feels good to cross such a big threshold. Good work, Margo. Good work. Dario says, 585 new words in my November project. Went back to it. Hey. And you know what? If you get burnt out, totally cool, right? Take those breathers. Go work on those other stories. Follow your inspiration. The battle that we always have to like fight as writers is following motivation versus following discipline. And whoo, it's hard. It's hard. Phantom, 548 new words. Let's go. Let's go. Just Guy says I got around 500 words in. Fix some world building. Yeah, yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Good progress, everyone. Good progress. I love it. Well, here's the deal. We're getting close to our 2-hour mark. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get in that last 20-minute sprint. But first, we're going to take a couple minutes, chill out, rest the brain, right? This is the whole Pomodoro style. Even though you want to keep running, it always pays to take that little break between sprints. And we're going to fit in our next full 20-minute sprint. Meaning we get out of here doing a full hour of writing. And that's awesome. That is awesome. Justin says, I think I've resolved that mid-act problem I was having. Heading to my resolution now. Time to get back to prose. Back to prose. Very cool. I love it. I love seeing everyone's updates. Like, I think if we finished up these writing sprints and just started talking about something else and no one said anything about the progress that they made in their writing, I think I probably would lose the motivation to like do the live streams. But like the sheer fact that people are like, I just wrote 500 words on this story that I can't wait to share with the world, and you did it while on the live stream, that feels so cool to me. That makes me like super excited because mostly because I want to see these stories when they come out. Whether you put them on Wattpad or whether you do all the editing and formatting and put it out in the world and self-publish it, I want to see them. It'd be cool to keep a list of all the community book releases. That's probably something we're going to put in at some point in the Discord, along with a special tag for the writers that we have in the Discord that have self-published or traditionally published a book. I think that's always good. Lantern Valley says, video about conversations involving 5+ characters and the ways to keep them distinct, organized, clear, win. Lantern Valley, I'm about to blow your mind. Part 3 of my 3-part dialogue series. We had some questions. We had some questions about how do you handle dialogue with a lot of people? How do you handle whether it's 5 people, whether you have 15 people in a room, how do you handle keeping things in order in a way that they make sense? And the number one way I recommend it is I think I pull up an example from like Ocean's 11 or something where they have 11 people in this conversation. And what I found is, especially in a lot of movies, and when I think back to a lot of the books I've read, I see similarities here. What you typically have when there is a conversation that's in a group of people, you typically have there being, let's say they're discussing, following our Ocean's 11 theme, they're discussing, here's the plan, the best way to break into this casino. I'm just using that as an example, right? what you typically have is you have one person leading the conversation, the person who's getting most of the information out there, and then you probably have another person who thinks differently. And in reality, in your story, maybe these are two different groups of people. But when you have characters in a big scene, you need to do a little sprinkling of author attention, where you say, I understand in a real life scenario, everyone would want to chime in on this. But in your scene, you kind of need to reduce it down to having leaders of the conversation. This person's representing this, part of the argument. This person's representing the other part of the argument. And then everyone else is playing support there, right? Everyone else is assisting, but only in specific moments. You can skip dialogue from people pretty much saying the same thing. That's a great point. What I talk about in that dialogue video is the fact that in the scene in Ocean's 11, you mainly have two people talking. And every other piece of information that comes from another character is only doing one of two or three things. The very first thing it's doing is sort of cementing where that character exists in the overall argument. In the case of this Ocean's 11 thing, are they in support with plan A or plan B? Number two, they're usually talking about some piece of information that's relevant to them specifically, and we want to hear it from them. In the case of Ocean's 11, let's say part of this plan means that we have this one guy who's going to climb across a tightrope across casinos to get to the other rooftop. Well, when that part of the plan is being discussed, that guy is going to be like, wait a minute. It's going to be raining and windy that day. That's a terrible idea. We want that character to represent that specific piece of information because it's so relevant to them. And maybe the number three thing that you would want to do in situations like this is, first off, limit the clutter. Have the people leading the conversation. But then also, if you want to have additional people chime in, you need to make sure that it is direct and to the point. It's not going to cause a big tangent that goes off on the side, ideally, unless that's specifically what you need to happen. But I would also say you want to keep it very succinct, and you want it to reinforce something about that character. Because, hey, look, even in your big conversation scene, you still need to be putting in the work so that all your characters feel distinct. This guy's worried about the tightrope stuff. The demolitions expert's worried about whether or not these plastic explosives are going to work in the rain on this stormy night where they're breaking into the casino. This other person wants to support argument A or argument B, but how can they do so in a way that makes their character feel like it really matters to them, and that's a specific point that would come from them and not anyone else. Otherwise, you want to have people sort of leading the conversation. Think of it like with Lost. If you ever seen the TV show Lost, similar concept. You have a cast of like 15 people, but when you boil it down, you're either on the side of Jack or you're on the side of Locke. And when there's big conversations about this, who are the people talking? It's Jack and it's Locke. Now, you might say, but in a real life situation, it would work this other way, or other people would say this, whatever the case may be. That's why we use that author attention. That's why we fudge things about our story to make the reading experience better. Yes, in real life, maybe this would happen in a different way, but it makes a better reading experience if we fudge it just a little and say that everyone's happy to have their sort of concerns represented by the leader of that conversation. That makes sense? Let me know what you think. Now, I don't know about your specific situation, but that's like the general handling conversation in a big crowd kind of thing. Robert McKee in his book Dialogue says, conversation is a pastime. Oh, the weather's nice today. Oh, it rained. Oh, we needed it. And dialogue is communication that leads to action, communication with a purpose, and conversation is a pastime. Yeah, Lantern Valley, good generalization, but specifics always mess things up. I can only lead you part of the way there, but I'm trying. I'm trying. All right, I think we end this stream with a very productive 15 minutes. Let's go out with a bang. I'm turning the microphone off, lo-fi up, 15 minutes on the clock, and we doing it. Good luck, everyone. I'll see you on the other side. Let's go. The final sprint is done. Look at that. Look at that. I end today at 2,800 words. Total at 26,001. Nice. How'd everyone do? How'd everyone do? I'd love to hear your progress. And as you're putting that in the comments, I'm going to hit on Aterial's great question. Aterial, 433 more words. Love to hear it. Aterial had a great question. I'm struggling to make my character sound smart. How do I make him sound smart? How do I make my character sound smart? This is a good question because I think almost everyone has a character in their story that's supposed to be that kind of character. And this doesn't mean you have a character who's an academic professor. This doesn't mean that you have a character who is a physicist or a mathematician. But there's typically some character who kind of seems like they know more about what's up, right? You know what I mean? Justin says, probably about 200 words, but got distracted with annoying name syndrome. I feel you. I have a temporary name in my story. My main character is Adam Harlow, and I don't love it. Don't love it. So I'm treating it like a temporary name. Feel ya. I'm doing the same thing. Maybe I fall in love with it at the end. Maybe I don't. But smart characters. A couple things come to mind immediately. The first thing is that a lot of times we can tell a character who's supposed to be smart not by the verbiage that they say, but sort of by how quickly they pick things up, how quickly they chime in with some witty comeback, how quickly they're participating in the things around them. And that's participating in the things around them kind of sounds kind of lame. Sounds kind of lame words. But what I mean by that is, you know, having these specific moments where something is happening, something's being uncovered, and the first person to really latch on and get it is this character that's supposed to be a little smarter, right? Now, you could push this the other way and say, I have a pretentiously smart character. That's when you start using the specific word choices. Maybe they have that, you know, that like rich person haughty laugh. Maybe they speak down to other people who they don't deem as smart. But when you're not writing a pretentiously smart character, you can also, I'd say one of the biggest things is wit. Wit is typically a result of being able to think quickly on your feet. That to me signs a smart character. By the way, Chicken Lover, welcome to the live stream. Happy to see you here. Additionally, other sort of features that we associate with smartness, whether that's you want to use something from real life, maybe someone who's a little bit more studious or a little bit more focused and doesn't waste their time on X, Y, and Z. Or you could say, I'm going to lean into the trope side of things, meaning I'm going to take characteristics found in the archetype of the smart characters and use that in my story, because that means the reader is going to catch on quicker that this is the smart character. What are the smart archetypes for characters? Well, a lot of times it's glasses, which is dumb. I know a lot of dumb people with glasses. Shout out glasses. You can do things. There's like these shortcuts you can take. Instead of saying they're smart, what about their... What's the right word here? What about their job that they work or hobbies that they have would indicate that they are quote unquote smart? Maybe this person's hobby is they like to tinker with computers. Hey, you only do that if you're smart. Maybe their job is the fact that they are in a role where maybe they are teaching people. Maybe they are in a role that uses mathematics. Maybe they are doing X, Y, and Z that we associate as an intellectual or something that requires more of an education or that quick thinking kind of idea. Those are some things that come up right off the bat. Now you can also, if you're going this sort of archetypal route, you can choose to emphasize things that we associate with smart characters in a negative way. In that smart character archetype, that's when you have things where you're like, you know, here's this character. They're socially awkward, but they're socially awkward and charming because they're a nerd or a geek. They focus more on school than they do going to parties. Shout out parties. I know a dumb coder. But like, you know, there's different ways to approach it. I like using archetypes. I purposefully use archetypes. The idea of saying that like, I have a character that's meant to fill this role. I'm going to choose some qualities from this tropey kind of character to very easily kind of paint the picture that this is who this person's supposed to be. Oh, hey, you know, Just Guy says academic but not street smart. Yeah, I mean, they're smart in different ways. Terra says I am a dumb coder. That's what do the Gen Zers say? That's something coded. That's dumb coded. Should that be my thing? Or is that idea dumb coded? Oh man, it's giving dumb. It's giving dumb. I mean, those are some ideas to kind of explore a little bit. But it also kind of depends on the situation, right? Because if you have a character and you're in a situation where, you know, I would say put your characters in a situation where they can be smart. Right? Put your character in a situation where they can solve a problem by being smart, or They can show off being smart. You know, if you just have 5 people in a college dorm just hanging out, you're not really giving that character the chance to be like, I'm smart and here's like the way I can show it to you. But if you have 5 characters who are, I don't know. My brain's also fried from. There's some example I'm sure it would enlighten us all. Imagine I said that. Wow, that is not dumb coded. All right, but that's all I got for you guys tonight. That's all I got. I had a great time. This was a fun live stream. I appreciate you. I hope to see more of your progress updates in the Discord. I ended today with a total of 2,800 words, and I feel good about that. That was with some writing done before the live stream, and it was all fun. And that's a good day when you write and you had fun writing. Because there are some days that you write and you do not have fun writing. We've all been there. Atario, I love that. So happy to hear that. If you have 5 characters at a college bar, one of them could be really smart and then say, them apples. Them apples needs to make a comeback. That's apple coded. Are apples on the rise? Can apples be... Is it giving apples? Is that giving Honeycrisp? Oh, Goodwill Hunting. Good. Actually, that's in I'm using a big scene from Goodwill Hunting in my next video to talk about comedy in fiction. So if you've ever been interested in sort of exploring the idea of purposefully building comedy in your story, in about 3 weeks, maybe you'll see it. I'll let you know. All right, everyone, have a great rest of the evening. Take care. Post your updates and everything in the Discord. I would love to see them. Thank you for joining me. I hope you got a lot of writing done, and I hope you had a great time while doing it. I will see you all later. I will be here tomorrow in the early time slot and Friday in this same time slot, and we will continue partying on, Justin. Party on, Wayne. Party on, Margot. Party on, Garth. Ethereal, I did not forget you. Party on. See you guys.